welcome to this video on the Star. This is probably one of my favourite cards in the deck, and I think probably lots of other people's too. It represents a lot that we aspire to. We all want hope and inspiration in our lives on many different levels, and this card is here to remind us of that and to connect with that, regardless of whether it's upright or reversed. It's also, for me, a fantastic glyph. If someone says, how do I meditate? Well, you couldn't go far wrong by actually looking at what this card represents, where you've got this figure here, and she's basically just surrendering to this spirituality, this spiritual light here. It's flowing through her, and she acts as a channel for spirit to express her wisdom. So there's a lot in this card, but if we look at it in terms of just some definitions here, some basic reading definitions for those that just stop by for this, it really just means being fulfilled and inspired by life, a reminder to follow our dreams, and that which gives us the most inspiration. It can also mean being directed to express our spiritual side, to be open and love and trust the universe. And it's possibly reminding us, even though we have had some sort of testing times, it's a reminder that the future will have inspiration and positivity, but we need to be open to that. There are some reversed meanings which can mean a loss of hope and faith, skepticism, being disconnected from our spiritual side, but whatever is on this list is really just saying that there are blocks in the way of that universal energy. So it just means that there's a little bit more work to be done. So this card really it has a lot to say, because it's essentially this openness and trust in the universe is a very fundamental principle, especially for those that are on like have a spiritual calling. Then this is a very important card. So I've introduced the card now. We're now going to go on to looking at the symbolism of this card in detail. So at this stage we've said that this central figure here is the goddess Nuit. This concept is central to the philosophy of Crowley, and his philosophy in general is called Thelema. I'm not going to go into that in great detail here. There's more about it in my notes on the website, where I've got some links. But essentially this is the stele of revealing, and a stele is basically a wooden or stone like plaque or little monument thing. And the goddess Nuit is here. It was discovered in Cairo in the early 19th century. So you've got this goddess Nuit. She also appears in the Eon card, which we will deal with shortly. And she is the eternal mother principle, the female, but in a more cosmic sense. Also in this particular piece of artifact, you've got Hadit, which is the winged egg here. You've got two serpents coming from... Here we go. That's a bit clearer, where you've got the two serpents here, and you've got it's like a sun, and it represents the male principle. So you've got the female, the male, and from this union of female and male you get Hadit, which is like it's the offspring. So in cosmic sense you're looking at a similarity in terms of the Bible, where you've got Father, Son and Holy Ghost. And this Trinity is represented in different religions in different ways. So the star is very central to and what she represents is very central to his whole philosophy. He also says in the Book of Law, which is something that he got through telepathically, so it was channeled, and in that it says that every man and every woman is a star, and it's really talking about the potential inside everyone to realise their greatness and their uniqueness. So we have this idea running through this card of the great potential that's inside of us, and this is what this card tries to convey. Alright, we'll move on to the next section. So just very briefly, we'll look at this goddess Nuit, and we can see her I'll show you just briefly in the Eon card here. This is another version of her, and we'll talk about the Eon card in a few videos time. It's card number 20, so it's nearly towards it's nearly at the end of the series there. Okay, we'll go on to just looking at the position of this card on the Tree of Life. This is also very interesting because Crowley had it communicated through, again channeled, that the star here should be swapped with the Emperor on the Tree of Life. So the Emperor was originally between Hokmar and Tippereth here, and the star down here, but he received communication that these two should be swapped. And I'll go through that in more detail in a separate video. So it connects Hokmar, which is like the force of spirit coming down, and it connects to our Christ Center, Tippereth, which is again a very important Sephiroth, because it's right in the middle of the Tree of Life, represents our Christ Center, these like the third eye. So, and it also crosses the abyss. The abyss is essentially, it runs horizontally here and separates the three Sephira, which make the supernal triangle. They're like the three purest, for want of a better word, Sephira, and the force of spirit which comes from Keter becomes more solidified once you get to Hesed here, and it moves down here. So the top three are the it's like the purest of the Sephira on the Tree of Life, and so the star crosses that, and again we have this theme of crossing from the divine down into matter here. The fact, we'll just have a little look at the Hebrew Association, which is Hey, H-E-Y. Hebrew letter is here. Now is it a closer version, which means window. And I think the relevance here is the main function of a window is to transmit light, and in the same way, like the essence of the star is to let us know that we're like transmitters of light, transmitters of spiritual energy, and it's this that we ideally link into in meditation. And if our window is dirty, then that light doesn't come through. So in other words, if we are blocked to the light inside, then it's like we were out of touch with our like spirituality. And I think that came up in the divinity meanings right at the start. So this is how all these things link in. The feminine essence of this card also links to the phrase Yehovah, where we've got Yod, Hey, Vav, Hey here. And these represent it's like the Eternal Father, mother, son and daughter. So in terms of the mother, in terms of the daughter here and the mother, they're both represented by the letter He, where you've got He here, and then you've got He final, is sometimes called. We'll also just briefly look at the Astrological Association, which is Aquarius, which is represented in the lower right hand corner of the card. So Aquarius is the water bearer. Even though Aquarius is an air sign, it's not a water sign, the Aquarian sign is quite complex, and I should know, I am one. And we can see the glyphs are very similar here. We've got a water bearer, female water bearer. And so again, it's that same sort of glyph as we have in the star. Right, we'll move on to look at the symbolism of the star in more detail now. Again, perhaps I should have said that with Aquarius here, Aquarius is also associated with like uniqueness. And this does link in as well with the quote from Crowley, which was like every man and woman is a star. So it's, I think I said, about discovering your uniqueness as well as your divinity. So the astrology does link in very nicely there. Okay, we'll go on to the symbolism here. If we look at the card in greater detail, we'll see that in fact up here we've got a gold cup, and down here we've got a silver cup, which is probably not always quite so obvious when we just briefly look at the card. I think this is why I love having, if you can get hold of the large deck of the Thoth deck, you'll find that you see a lot more detail. So for actually studying the symbolism in detail, the big cards are very, very good for that. So we have a gold cup, and the gold cup does, I'll just zoom in on that, represent like the sun, the masculine, the potential. It's like God the Father. So she's pouring like the limitless potential of God on her. She's seeing that light, that spiraling energy coming from the gold cup. And we can see here there is a star here, and that is a 7-pointed star of Venus, and it's coming from the golden cup, and Venus is all about love. So we have in essence this spiritual light having the quality of love. The 7-pointed star of Venus is also associated with the Tree of Life again, because Netzach here is ruled by Venus. So it also links in with this particular Sephiroth here. And Netzach is also to do with like emotional fulfillment and that sort of thing. If we look at the lower section of the card here, we've got a different type of energy. We've got a silver cup here. So Crowley is keen to point out you've got this spiraling energy here, which becomes far more geometrical down here. We've got the beginnings of shape and form, and it's this this is where the energy or spirit becomes less pure. It's like we talked on the Tree of Life here, where you've got the 3 Sephiroth here, which are the most purest aspect of creation, and it becomes more tainted when it becomes into form, into matter. So we have the moon down here, which is to do with an illusion, and similarly the silver cup here is to do with illusion as this energy becomes more tainted. We've also got the this being poured on the junction of land and water, because we've got these formed crystals here, and behind here we have a sea. So we've got again the junction of land and water, and that is similar to land and water here. So you know, the principles of these cards are the same. And also in the background, which you can barely see, are like pyramids here and here. They're not really tremendously visible, but they are there. Also of note, in the top left corner here, we've got a 7-pointed star of Babylon. Babylon is, in terms of Crowley, is a very sacred name. And it's said that the number 7 is drawn 7 times within this star, and the energies of this radiate out and touch all aspects of the card. This globe in the middle here is often mistaken as Earth, but in fact it's the universe with which the Earth is a part of. So again, this is on a much bigger scale. So if you can imagine her as like the female, the universal femininity out of which everything is born. Again, on the Tree of Life we've got B.O.T.A here, which is ruled by Saturn, and that's like the female aspect. So you've got the spirit here, you've got the force here in Hokmar, and you've got the female B.O.T.A here, which the eternal sea, and B.O.T.A is represented in the minor arcana as well, so it's a recurring theme throughout the deck. So in this card, its picture is, although we tend to think of this as just the Earth, well, the Earth is a very small part of the universe, so this gives you an idea of the universality of this card. Within the globe here we've got again the Star of Venus, and these spirals here again radiate out, so we've got the energy of love radiating throughout the universe. For those of you that have meditated and connected with spirit, or whatever spiritual practice you do, or even if you don't do, if you've had this experience of universal love, I mean, it's just amazing, and I wish I'd had it more and connected with it more than I actually have, but I guess I'm lucky to have had any glimpses at all. But it is an amazing energy, and it's like the whole of the universe is supported and made from love. So we've got this energy radiating throughout the universe there. So this concept of Venus is also, we saw in the Empress card here. So all of these are connected. You've got the sign here of Venus, and the Empress again was to do with love and birth and the giving rise to, well, it can represent like a physical birth, but also you know, the birth of anything that is inspirational, and so you can see how all of these cards connect. But again, we've covered this in a previous video. Okay, next, this here we've got the crystalline earth here. So this is like represents the manifested world, and there are 20 seven-sided translucent solids down here, and these exhibit geometry that we do not see in the spiritual realm. So here we've got spirals And here we've definitely got geometrical shapes. And for those of you that see like astrally and that sort of thing, you can see shapes within the lower levels of light, which become more and more formless as you leave like creation behind. So the number 20 links to Hod, which we saw in the Yod in the Tetragrammaton that we saw. But there's more about that in the notes, and this links in with the Hermit card and the Lover's card. So when I said just previously that these cards interlink, there are lots of interlinking between one major arcana card and another. We've got 3 roses here in the lower right hand corner of the card, and again we've got some butterflies here. So these are again representing fertility, which is very much in evidence in this card. And we've got this Sea of B.O.T.A in the background. This does represent like the formlessness, so she bridges the gap between the formlessness of spirit and creation. So this theme between spirit and matter, and this conduit that she is, runs constantly throughout this card. The butterflies themselves also represent like freed souls that are free from the trappings of matter. So in other words, they are progressing up the tree of life from the bondage of matter, and now they are going towards the formlessness of spirit. In the background we've got a pyramid city. The pyramid is a very, very spiritual structure where in ancient Egyptian times you used to get initiations and all sorts of spiritual practice going on, and that lies at the back of this Sea of B.O.T.A. So once we've crossed that formlessness, it's like we enter the city of pyramids. Again, pyramids can be seen in higher spiritual realms, so again that's another fascinating subject. But the principle is the same. It's one of being a transmitter for spirit and also of liberation from matter. I think in terms of symbology we're done, and you'd be surprised how much there is there. Okay, we'll go on to the next section. Okay, very briefly, there's more in the notes on my website, but we've got a transition that the Fu makes from the previous card, which was the Tower, to the Star. So the Tower was all about forced change, which can be quite traumatic. We've got all that red energy firing off there, and in this card you can see just how the colours are, and the flow of energy in this card is just so different. So with the Tower, we've like endured life's challenges, and out of that, like chaos and trauma, so even if it's just a part of us, as being able to come through that and shift to enable us to open up and see life in a different way and find that hope and inspiration. And so the Star is also about following your dreams and being in touch with that inspiration and that love inside. And quite often this comes out of a time of difficulty. So that is that change in a nutshell, but again there's far more on the website there. We'll move on to the next section. I've done divinatory meanings at the start, I won't repeat that, so we'll just go on to how the star is applied to a Celtic cross-spread and end there. Okay, this is our Celtic cross-spread here. If we get the star at the heart of the matter, we can really go for it. I think, as I said, the star is one card I'd really love to have in my reading. And the heart of the situation, it's really a time to discover something more fulfilling and something much bigger than just a mundane existence. It's that real need to feel inspired and fulfilled in a much deeper way. And quite often people would love to hear that sort of thing, because they may have buried that sense of inspiration that may have been knocked out of them, and they just need to hear that affirmation, in a sense, to get them going. And that's happened a few times in my life, so I know how important it is to have that reinforcement going on. So that's essentially the heart of the matter. Challenging the issue comes as a possible obstacle, but as I said, even in its more challenging positions, a star is very useful. It can just represent that lack of faith in yourself, and it can just mean that there are obstacles in the way of you connecting with what truly inspires you. So you can look at the rest of the reading to see how that might be restricting you at this present time. Unknown influence or subconscious influences is again this belief that perhaps we can't find joy and happiness. It could be that our subconscious is working through us through unresolved trauma. In other words, we haven't quite moved out of the tower experience as yet. But again, even in this position, it could also mean that there are forces of spirit working on someone which they're not aware of, and so they need to trust in the process of life and move forward away from, again, the experiences of the tower, to find their own confidence and their own inspiration there. Again, past, it could be a time, it could have been a very inspiring time in the past where you have been connected with spirit, and you may have lost that connection, but just to have, again, for it to be reinforced that yes, that you have had that inspiration in the past, and you can have it again. So you just need to reconnect with that. Hopes and goals, again, finding inspiration, fulfilling potential. Immediate future here, to remind you to believe in yourself, to meditate, to be open to spirit. Self-image. Again, this can be a reflection of somebody's need to find and discover their spiritual nature, to go within. So it's all very sort of similar themes there. We move on to guidance and warning. Again, there's full notes on the website. These are just sort of ideas. You need to listen to your inner voice and reconnect. Think big. Go with your dreams without letting negativity get in the way. And I guess the warning here is that if you don't, you will basically just be stuck in the same level of mundaneness and lack of fulfillment that you find yourself in at this moment in time. And in position 10, essentially the star means fulfillment of dreams, to be an asset to those around you, and an asset to the planet spiritually. So the star also represents things happening on a universal level, so it's being a channel for spirit for the planet as well. So it's not just the little individual's life. And it also represents, as I say, that transition between overcoming difficult times in the past from the experiences of the tower, to reach our greatness, find our uniqueness. As Crowley said, every man and woman is a star. So I think I'll end there. Hopefully that's a few themes, a few pointers for you, and I hope it's helped. And we'll move on to the next card soon. Okay, take care of yourselves. Bye for now.